Welcome back. All right, pretty full news board. A little bit to talk about with each team. Some stuff from last night, and then, of course, waiver news from today and injury talk as well. So we'll start at the top of the board with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Nedeljkovic dealing with a lower body injury. He's week to week, so minimum of 2 weeks is usually the case there. Ponomarev, upper body injury. He's seen as day to day for the Pittsburgh Penguins. They've also placed Huntington, Johnstone, and Hollowell on waivers. Hollowell's one that I could see a team maybe being interested in, but we shall see. The Penguins trimming their roster down as everybody's getting ready now for the regular season. Ginla has been returned to the WHL to his team in Kelowna by the Utah Hockey Club. Ginla, probably a year away, maybe 2 years away, but no rush there. Yamamoto had 2 goals last night in a 3-1 win over the San Jose Sharks, so he's trying to earn himself a contract. He's on a PTO. And then we get to the Minnesota news. So owner Craig Leopold was asked about a Kirill Kaprizov extension, and he says nobody will offer more money than us. Also points out nobody's going to offer more term, which makes sense because 8 years is the max for the team that's got the player. But last night, Kirill showing what he can do, a goal and 3 assists in a 7-2 victory over the Chicago Blackhawks. So Kirill Kaprizov showing once again why the guy's a superstar in the National Hockey League. Good news for Florida fans. It looks like Shannon Skanes is expected to play in the final preseason game, which I believe is on Friday. And so for Florida, a team that hasn't really employed very many rookies over the last couple seasons, we'll see if he ends up being a regular for them this season or if he ends up playing in the AHL. There's some expectation he may play with the team. We'll see. Ville Husso had 43 saves last night on 44 shots faced in a 2-1 win against the Penguins. Again, I'm not getting into which rosters are being played by which teams and all that because I think it's kind of silly. I think it's just important to look at individual performances. And for Ville Husso, who's on a $4.75 million cap hit contract, a good game like this is important for your confidence. Kevin Labanc, who is on a tryout as well for New Jersey, gets 2 goals and 1 assist in a 5-4 loss against the Rangers last night. So Labanc trying to get himself a contract. We'll see whether or not that ends up being the case. In that game for the Rangers, Othman had 2 assists. Mancini had a goal as well, as Mancini is trying his best to get through all these cuts and make the opening night roster. Panarin exited last night's game with a lower body injury. I have not seen an update on what his status is or how long he might be out, so hopefully it's nothing major. As the lining injury showed, we can never really tell how long somebody might be out when they get hurt. Gru has been waived by the New York Rangers today, as again, teams continue to make cuts. Yakubchuk for the Ottawa Senators last night had a goal and an assist in a 4-3 win against Montreal. But that's where the good news ends if you're an Ottawa fan. Tkachuk, Stützle, and Shabbat all left that game injured. I have not seen an update yet on those 3 players in terms of how long they're going to be out. But when you see a guy like Brady Tkachuk leave a game and not come back, it has to be something serious. He's not hurt, he's injured. So, we'll see how long those players are going to be out. And again, there's been a ton of injuries this preseason. We'll see if that trend continues and how many teams are really shorthanded to start the season this year. Akira Schmid. So, we have Samsonov, we have Hill in Vegas, right? Schmid's trying to get himself into that conversation, though. He saves 27 out of 28 last night in a 6-1 win over the Avs. Again, it's not like the Avs had like this veteran lineup or anything, but still, Schmid saving 27 out of 28. Good on him. Make them think about it. Make them think about whether or not they want to keep you around or you want to carry 3 goalies. Vegas is going to be an interesting one to watch. In San Jose, Celebrini. In San Jose news, I should say, Celebrini left the game against Utah last night with an injury. He crashed into the boards. So we'll see how long he's out. Again, we have not seen an update as of yet on the injury, how long he might miss. San Jose's put Podorowski and Sabourin on waivers. So Scott Sabourin can drop the gloves. Maybe there's a team out there that looks at him and says, we could use him in the bottom 6, but I doubt it. So we'll see. The one incident, I should say, a lot of people were talking about from last night. Xhekaj gets ejected after a high hit on Stützle. Nothing from the Department of Player Safety on this, and of course, Xhekaj was fined for the mugging on Pare in that game against Toronto, and so now there are those who are convinced he's a very dirty player. Xhekaj plays on the edge, and I'm not going to pretend that he doesn't. Xhekaj is a very physical player, and he's also not shy about dropping the gloves. So Arber has been backed up by his teammates quite a bit. There's some debate about where he fits in on the blue line and where he might end up playing. If the blue line's too crowded right now in Montreal, does Xhekaj end up in Laval? I don't think so. I think Xhekaj is going to play with the team. Having looked at the hit, I think he was trying to throw a heavy hit, and Stützle tried to get out of the way, and it ends up being one of those things that clips the head. So we can get into the argument of when a head hit should lead to a suspension, and do you have to measure intent? I watched a video on that on TSN this morning, and it's an interesting question. It's one I've raised as well. I think it's really difficult to bring in intent and claim to know what a player is thinking in the heat of the moment and in that split second. And I don't think intent should necessarily matter a lot. I think that the result here, the injury, and again, we'll see what the NHL has to say, if anything. But generally, when they don't suspend and they don't give out any kind of fine, we just never hear about it again from the league, usually. But Xhekaj, again, it doesn't look like anything's going to happen with the Department of Player Safety on this. So you guys can let me know your thoughts. I think Xhekaj is a very physical, mobile defenseman who is young, and it was reckless. Sure, I don't know if it rises to the level of suspension, but considering that he had just been fined after the incident in that game against Toronto, it's going to put him more in the spotlight. It means when an incident that you look at and go, well, maybe, that could be borderline. Xhekaj, you see that and you're going to go, nope. And it's the same thing people go through with Tom Wilson, Brad Marchand, and others. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think Xhekaj is a dirty player? Honestly, I don't think he's necessarily a dirty player, but he's an aggressive player, and he's always going to be a guy who plays on the edge. The moment that he's not playing on the edge, he's not playing that physical game, he's gone. I think that would completely alter his game, and I think then you'd look at him and say, well, there's other guys that can play that role. So Xhekaj has to be physical. He has to be aggressive. It is part of his game. Hopefully Stützle's not out for that long, and hopefully we don't see more of these ugly hits before the end of the preseason. And by ugly, I just mean, hits that result in injury. I don't like to see that at all. Sorokin took shots today before practice for the New York Islanders, so that's good news for the Islanders. The plan is to have Sorokin ready for opening night. I think Varlamov ends up being the goalie on opening night anyways, but Sorokin taking shots before practice is a good sign that he's progressing towards a return. Hakanpää and Dewar both spotted at practice for the Toronto Maple Leafs today. They're both out with injuries, of course. There's been a lot of debate about Hakanpää and what he may or may not be able to do. How many games is he going to be able to play? And how is that knee? Either way, they were both at practice today. Other waiver wire news, the Columbus Blue Jackets have waived Fix-Wolansky. Not a surprise there, of course. He'll go down to the minors and play for the Monsters. Spencer Martin on waivers for Carolina. This is going to be an interesting one because Spencer Martin has been claimed on waivers previously. So we'll see whether or not Martin gets claimed on waivers from Carolina this time around. Cal Peterson on waivers for Philly. Spoiler alert, I don't think anybody's touching that contract. So Peterson will clear and end up going down and playing for the Phantoms. Colorado, busy with the waiver wire this morning. Phillips, Ashawn, and Rosen all waived. Or Roseanne. I've heard it pronounced all three ways. I always thought Callie Rosen, but I've heard Roseanne. Anyways, so I'll go with Callie Rosen on this one. He's on waivers. I like Rosen, but at any rate, he does usually clear waivers and play in the American Hockey League. The Boston Bruins have kind of messed up the Canucks' depth in net. They claimed Jiri Patera from the Canucks. So Boston, of course, without Swayman, it's going to leave them a bit short on goaltenders in their organization. So Patera gets claimed. The problem is now Boston has to keep Patera on their roster. And so does that signal that Bussy's going to get sent down? Because they can't just send Patera down to Providence. They'd have to put him back on waivers, and then Vancouver could just claim him right back. So we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. in the event that you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.